Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. There is a contest associated with this episode, so make sure that you tune in until the end to hear the contest details. Thank you for tuning into the Generational Gauntlet Top 5 Faves. This is the podcast where we give you our top 5 on a topic with a generational twist to it. My name is Matt Lambert, and I'm the host of this podcast. Each week, I bring in a guest who's from a different generation than me to discuss or debate our top 5 on a selected topic. Today's topic is your top 5 favorite artists. And I'm going to be honest, I am probably the least artistic person in the world. I can't draw, I can't paint, and after a recent outing with my wife Madison, I realized I can't do pottery either. So for today, I had to bring in a real life artist, and that artist is Ann Henry, a Gen Xer, one of my wife's best friends, and the owner of Artsy Fartsy in Ona, West Virginia. So Ann, thank you for jumping on here today. I appreciate having you. And before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know a little bit about your business as you're killing it on the art scene. So, Ann, could you let everybody know what it is? What is your business all about?
Well, thanks for having me. It's a fun time for sure. So I opened Artsy Fartsy originally my plan was to have like a storefront for people
Hmm.
that could sell their goods and things, but then it's kind of morphed into a whole pottery studio. And so since my husband is a good sport, he's agreed to join my efforts here. And so I quit my job, my teaching job, with an actual paycheck, with actual insurance, all of that. And so we've turned the entire basement into artsy fartsy. And so I do classes here, pottery classes, usually on the wheel. I have some hand building things that I go into. We've formed like this really cool community. So
Hmm.
people just come. Sometimes they just come just for the community, but then, extra bonus, you get to make fun things too. So that's a cool time.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you just mentioned it. So you do pottery on both the will and you hand build as well, correct?
Correct. Right now, what I'm doing is 6-week classes. So people
Hmm.
sign up on my website and they'll sign up for a 6-week class. So 4 weeks of that are just learning basic wheel techniques, how to do it, getting independent. And then there's one day within the 6 weeks that is just hand building. And
Hmm.
then the last day, they come back and learn how to glaze all of their pieces. And then they come back and pick them all up. So they get from very start to finish everything. And then there's also an advanced intermediate class as well. So we get a little past all the basic stuff and they get to learn more techniques and like, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix it when this happens? Things like that.
Well, I think Madison may have told you we did a date recently, actually on Valentine's Day, and we went and did a pottery class. I think it was like 2 hours long down here in South Carolina. And it was one of the most humbling things I've ever done. My hands and arms hurt. And our conversation about you has been that you have to have like arms of steel at this point. It's just
Yeah.
physically exhausting. I don't know how you do that all the time.
I used
Now,
to be so sore after I would
I'm sure.
finish.
I'm
So
sure.
sore.
Now, I know we talked a little bit about your classes. Do you take custom orders for any items that you make?
I do. One of the really cool things that I offer is fingerprint mugs.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of the things it's really cool, when somebody passes away, they can take their fingerprint. A lot of times they can get a fingerprint from a funeral home or whatever, or if
Hmm.
they have their fingerprint, then I can have that turned into a custom stamp and have someone's fingerprint put into the clay. So I usually put like the fingerprint at the top of the handle.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like just a really special thing. You can have your coffee and, have a fingerprint of somebody. That's a really special thing that people like to do. And I do other custom things too. That's like a very personal,
Hmm.
sweet thing that people like to do. Custom orders make me nervous because it's so much pressure.
I'm
Like I
sure.
love a good challenge, but then sometimes I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it puts so much pressure on me." It's stressy, but
Well,
I'd
so
much rather somebody come and just, like, buy something off the shelf, and then that takes the pressure off.
that was gonna be my next question. So you have items that are already available for purchase?
I do, yeah. I don't have a storefront right now,
Mhm.
but I do have lots of things here at the studio, and then I also sell at, the Tamarack. I
Okay.
got juried in to be an artisan there, so that's pretty cool,
That's big time.
and that's big time. That's very exciting, and that's in Beckley, West Virginia. I'm in a couple other stores. There's one in Matewan, West Virginia, Williamson, West Virginia, and then in Huntington, West Virginia, the Red
Mhm.
Caboose. I put things down there and then go to festivals and things.
Can any of your items, like, let's say if somebody reached out to you that's outside of West Virginia, can anybody have things shipped to them if they don't live nearby?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do ship things. It is a little pricey to ship things
Mhm.
because, things get broken very easily in, any kind of shipping method that you do. So whenever I do send things anywhere, I usually do a box within a box. So
Okay.
it's, extra protected and hopefully it'll make it there in one piece and not 15 pieces.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you remember this, but we have a coffee cup of yours at our house, and it is literally a fight on the weekends to
So
see who gets
great.
to drink out of that coffee cup. I
So
can't use it during
good.
the week. I take, like, the travel disposable cups on my way to
Right,
work, but
right.
when Madison and I are both here, it's a fight to see who can get into the cabinet
So
first.
good.
So, I can say from firsthand experience, your products are awesome.
That's so good.
I know you mentioned the storefronts that your pottery is being sold at. Is there somewhere that people can check things out online of what you have for sale?
Yeah, for sure. I have a website. It's
Mhm.
artsyfartsywv, as in West Virginia.com. So you can go on there and see a lot of the products that I have. And a lot of times they will say sold out, but it's just because I am not super tech savvy. And so a lot of times I do have those things, they just are not updated on my website. So
Mhm.
if people would just shoot me a message, I can always check for availability or I can just make them whatever they want and whatever color they want.
Yeah. And is the on your website, is that where people can find out more information about the classes and the other things you offer as well?
Yes, yeah. On my website, I have a little tab. It says classes. So if you just click that, they can just go on there and check that out. They can register on there, and then I also have an open studio option on
Mhm.
Thursdays as of right now. I hope to open that up more, but as of right now, it's just on Thursdays, and people can come, pay $30, come just do whatever they want to. They can use the wheels, they can hand build, they can glaze, work on whatever projects they have. There's not instruction; they just come in and play and hang out in the cool pottery community, so that's usually a fun time.
Well, and for anybody listening, I'll be posting Anne's website. I'll be posting her links in this episode description, as well as it'll be on the socials for the podcast on both Facebook and on Instagram. And Anne, before we get into our top fives today, is there anything else that people need to know about you or about your business before we get rolling?
I think a really fun little story about Artsy Fartsy is actually the name.
Hmm.
We went around and around trying to figure out what are we going to name this place because I knew I wanted to do this and I had other names picked out. And so we were going down the road one day and I said something about Artsy Fartsy. And my husband says, "Why don't you just name it that? Artsy fartsy, because you say that all the time." So when I got my business license back in 2021, I FaceTimed my grandmother, who was then 92 years old. And yes, she still FaceTimes and she's 97 now, and I love her. But so I call her and I'm like, "Grandma, I got my business license," like super excited. And she's like, "Oh, that's great." And I said, "Do you want to know what the name is?" And she's like, "Yeah, what is it?" And I said, "It's Artsy Fartsy." And so, like, the audible gasp from her, she said, "Oh my gosh, that's filthy. Why would you do that?" And I said, "Well, because like people are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it." I said, "We're talking about it right now. Like, good or bad, people are going to talk about it and they're going to remember it." And I said, "So grandma, are you saying that if I got you a shirt that says artsy fartsy, you wouldn't wear it?" And she's like, "Absolutely not. Don't waste your money." Which is amazing.
Did you ever get her a shirt that says artsy fartsy on it?
No, but I've been super sneaky because every year, around Pumpkin Festival season, which happens in Milton in October, so that's usually when she flies back to Florida,
Mhm.
because she's a little snowbird, and so she'll come to the booth that I have there at the Pumpkin Festival, and I have my big artsy fartsy sign, so every year I take a picture of her with me in front of the artsy fartsy sign. So she's a part of it, whether she wants to admit it or not.
Now, and I do wanna ask you something, extra here. It's my understanding you have a mascot, like
I
a animal
do.
mascot. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I definitely do. So it's Karen the cat, and Karen is a calico, and if you know anything about calico cats, so they are definitely, a little spicy, and so they have a little, temperament of you never know what they're gonna do. So Karen loves to do pottery, but specifically, she likes to jump on people's left shoulder and just watch while they're on the wheel, and she'll sit over and watch you while you're doing pottery. But also, I've created a whole line of Karen the cats. So she has her own line of pottery, and she has no
Nice.
idea. So I put a little cat on top of, like, my mugs or whatever, and they're all painted up like Karen the cat. She's pretty famous now.
Well, I think I know what Madison might be getting for Mother's Day now is some Karen
Yeah.
the Cat swag.
Right.
Well,
Right.
like I said, Anne's links will be on the socials, the episode description. Check her out, especially if you're in the West Virginia area. You're looking for a new skill, something to get into, go do some pottery. If you say, hey, if you're like, I need to hit the gym, I got to get my arms toned up, I can attest to it. Pottery will do that. You will
Right.
get cut. All right. So, for those that haven't listened to the podcast before, here's how this whole thing works. Anne and I have each put together our own list for our top 5 favorite artists. I do not know Anne's list, but I do have some intel. I will be shocked if there is a person that's not on her list, but we'll see if I'm right.
Mm,
She'll kick things off. She'll give her number 5 and why. She'll hand it over to me. I'll give my number 5 and why. And we'll continue until we get to each of our number ones. So, with that, Anne, I'm going to hand it over to you. Who is your number
okay.
5 favorite artist?
So, when you asked me to do the artist, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've gotta, like, look up some artists that I
I did
like."
too.
Like,
I did too.
yeah. I'm like, "What am I gonna do?" But I landed on a few things. So, number 5 is actually a local person, and she used to be the art teacher that your wife Madison and I worked at together, and her name is Leanne Blevins. She's an incredible painter. She does really cool artwork, and she's in calendars, she's in the Tamarack, she's in all kinds of things. So, I think
Okay.
she's a cool cat. Yeah.
It's funny, as you said it, is it, is it Allied Artists of West Virginia is where she's featured on?
I think so. Leanne Blevins is her name.
Oh,
I think she is featured in that.
yeah, I'm actually looking at some of her paintings right now, so for anybody that's interested, there's this website, alliederstswv.org. She's got some stuff on here, some really good paintings. You are not kidding, like, she is
Yeah,
extremely talented.
really talented. She does, she'll even take people's photographs of their animals and paint and put them into paintings. Like, it's just really incredible.
Oh,
She's
that's
super
awesome.
talented. Yeah.
Well, nice. I like that your number 5 is somebody local. Um, and my number 5 is Dr. Dre.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
that's
I'm kidding.
awesome.
No, I had a friend of mine who I was talking to. I told him we were doing this topic, and they said you should just do top 5 rappers because those are
Oh,
artists.
yeah.
I
They're
I,
right.
would,
That's right.
I didn't go that route. I went with some real artists here. So my number 5, I'm gonna be curious if you've ever heard this guy's name. His name is Roy Lichtenstein.
Oh, okay. No,
Have
I
you ever
don't
heard
know
of
him.
Roy before?
I don't believe I have.
All right, so I had not until a few years ago, and the reason I've heard of Roy is I was in this thing, we were doing presentations. You had to draw a topic out of a hat, and whatever you ended up with, you had to do a 30-minute presentation on. And
Wow.
I drew Roy, and I had no idea who he was. And I started out my PowerPoint, and there were pictures of Michigan's Fab Five in the basketball world. There was
Mm.
some hip hop artists like Run DMC. I had a picture of Steve Jobs, and then I had a
Oh,
picture of Roy. And I was basically talking about people that had revolutionized their industry or their sport.
oh,
And Roy is known as one of the leading figures of what's called the pop art movement. And I had to become very familiar with his work for this
oh.
presentation. He was known for these really large paintings that were inspired by comic books, advertisements, and mass-produced imagery. And
Interesting.
I don't know if this technique's used as much today, but back in the day there was this technique called Ben Day dots, and it was a
Oh,
mechanical printing technique that Roy did by hand. He had some very famous paintings. There's one called Wham back in 1963, and his
mm.
very humbly called masterpiece, which was created in 1962, sold for $165 million at auction.
Wow.
And I've had a
Wow.
couple people tell me one of the things they enjoy is when this podcast gives some random facts. So with each of my artists, I have a couple random facts I'll throw in. So Roy is a graduate of the greatest university in the United States, maybe the world, the Ohio State University.
Oh.
Um, I will not go into his awards and doctorate degrees. He's got a lot. But Roy was like an old Jay-Z song. He was able to, quote unquote, change the game. That's my number five. And I'll kick it back to you for your number four artist.
Wow, that's a good one. I think you're
Thank you.
gonna
Thank
shore
you.
me up with all of these. I don't know. I think your list is probably gonna be better than mine.
It won't be. It's never been better than anybody else's. I'm used to taking an L, and I'm okay with it.
Uh, well, my number 4 is an artist. He is a potter. His name is Tim C. SEE. And I came across him probably on Facebook because I started seeing some like instructional videos and some of
Hmm.
his pottery. And so I actually flew down to Tallahassee and took a workshop from
Oh
him.
wow.
And I was really impressed with how he teaches. He's not condescending. Unfortunately, the pottery world can be not so friendly.
Really?
And yeah, and he is one of the better ones on the spectrum. Like he really is he's a good teacher. He shows things, he will explain things in great detail and not just once because I see people asking the same question over and over and over again and yet he just puts it right back out there and explains it and so I appreciate that. I like how he does his work. It's very unique
Hmm.
and just really cool and he's not afraid to show people different techniques and stuff. A lot of potters are afraid to show what they do because, what if somebody else takes that and runs with it? And
Yeah.
God, this is a really big world. Like pottery can, go vastly among lots of states and lots of people.
Hmm.
So it's just good to share. And he's a good sharer of his craft.
It's interesting. So as you mentioned him, I was pulling up his website here, and I'm looking at some of his recent work, and he's got like I'm assuming like some of this is like some like tea kettles, some
Yeah.
one looks like maybe a gasoline can, and I
Right.
have no idea how he
Right.
does that. As I mentioned, I
Yeah.
did pottery recently, and I had what looked like half of a cup was what I created. So the intricacies on this is really
Yeah.
impressive. So
It's wild. His stuff looks real. It
yeah,
looks like real oil cans, real
uh-huh,
tin cans, all of that. It looks super real, and
highly
it's
impressive.
very impressive. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
for
I love
sure.
that your list so far is people like you've met and and then I'm like dropping people that I had to Google. So my number four, I know you didn't know Roy. I'm curious if you know my number four. I'm going to give you her full name and then I'm going to give you the name she's known by. So my number four is Magdalene Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderon or Frida Kahlo. You know Frida
Holy
Kahlo?
moly, I do not. I do
Oh,
not.
okay. So I will be honest, when I thought of this list, most of the people on my list, or well, I say like a couple of them I had to like really look up, but she was the one that jumped to mind for me immediately. And I am not trying to shame anyone's eyebrow game. I want to be clear on that. But Frida, like NBA player Anthony Davis, is known for her unibrow. That is something she is known
Nice.
for. She was a Mexican painter who
Okay.
sadly didn't become well known until after her death. She died
Oh,
in
wow.
1954 at the
Mhm.
very young age of 47, and during her life, she had overcome polio, she had a bus accident, other health issues. And what I really didn't know until I started doing a little bit of research on her is that the bus accident is what led to her painting. She was
Wow.
bedridden. Her dad bought her all of her painting supplies. Her mom created a special easel for her. They put a mirror above her bed, and that's how she started painting self portraits, which is what
Hmm.
she's known for. So,
Wow.
passed away in 1954, but in the 1970s, she became well known, and by the 90s, she was considered one of the most significant female painters in history. She's
Wow.
known for her self portraits, her painting about chronic pain, and her 1940 self portrait holds the record for the most expensive work by a female artist ever, and it was auctioned at $54.7 million.
Wow.
Now, my family, and I think you are as well, we're big animal lovers here.
For sure.
And Frida owned very exotic pets.
Hmm.
So she had two spider monkeys that were
Oh,
featured
wow.
in one of her 1943 paintings. She owned a parrot, a fawn, an eagle, macaws, hens, sparrows. She owned several Mexican hairless dogs. Her
Wow.
animals were known for roaming freely on her property, and Frida's viewed as a feminist icon in the art world. So Frida jumped to mind immediately for me. She's my number 4. So Anne, if you're not familiar with her work, I'd say check her out. She's got some good paintings from back in the day.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Well,
Very
Anne,
cool.
who is your number 3?
Okay. So my number 3 is actually my kids. I put them
Okay.
as a collective number 3 because they are all very creative, very artistic, and, I love the style and, of
Mhm.
course, proud mom moment, but I just really, appreciate that they are very artistic. They like, music, they can
Mhm.
play and sing and do the things, but overall, I love their art, and I know that's definitely a mom thing to say, but, like, genuinely, I think it's really cool.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm probably Nora's gonna give me some side eye that she didn't make my list, but we had a list on your top 5, a former episode where we covered your top 5 favorite athletes you've seen in person, and Nora was
Mhm.
my number 1 on my list because of watching her
Aw,
do
that's
jujitsu.
awesome.
So, I
That's
love the
awesome.
shout out to your kids, like your number 3. My number 3, and you might know this guy, I don't know, but
Mhm.
Bob Ross is my
Oh,
number 3.
yes, yes,
So, I'm
definitely.
I won't ask. I'm gonna be curious to see if he makes, one of your
Right,
top 2, but
right.
for me, Bob Ross was a major figure in my childhood, and
Mhm.
he hosted The Joy of Painting on PBS from, I think what was it, '83 to maybe '94,
I think
and
so.
what's wild is, and I really did not know this, he discovered his love of oil painting while in the military. And allegedly, he did after doing his 20 years in the Air Force, he allegedly said he would never yell again, which is why he was
Um,
so chill with his painting.
mhm.
Even though he passed away pretty young, his speed painting style allowed him to create 30,000 paintings during his life.
Wow,
And one of my doctors still shows reruns of Bob Ross in the lobby during my medical appointments,
it's
and
amazing.
I think it's just to keep people chilled out. Like he's so
Yeah,
relaxing and down to earth, and I quite frankly, maybe somebody's like, "Oh, he didn't change the world of art." I totally disagree. I think he brought
yeah,
just such a humanized element. He's like the Mister Rogers of the
I
art world.
agree. I
Now,
fully agree with that, yeah.
Anna, I have a trivia question for you.
Okay.
So, do you know what US state influenced most of Bob Ross's paintings?
I would like to say, let's see. Well, if I think about, I would say West Virginia, but if I said, I don't know, he did a lot of mountain
He
paintings with
did.
lots of snow.
So it's not West
So
Virginia.
it's not West Virginia.
Mm-mm.
I would guess, um, if it's not Alaska, which it could be Alaska.
Stay with that answer. Stay with that answer.
Okay, I'm gonna guess Alaska. Final answer.
Alaska. So he was stationed for a long period of time there in the Air Force, and that is what most of the nature scenes he's painting is from the state of Alaska.
Very cool.
So
Very cool.
that is my number 3. There's a random fact about him as well,
Huh,
and
that's
I'll hand
cool.
it back to you for your number 2.
All right. So my number 2 is another person who's close to me, and that would be my brother.
Hmm.
He had a knife business called Riders Knives, and he was on the show Forged in Fire and everything, and had started his forging business and would take classes and stuff. And then, so he is my number two because he could sing and play any instrument he picked up, but any kind of art stuff, he loved that and definitely got into the forging thing and could make anything, made swords and knives and all the things. So he's
Yeah.
my number two.
I remember seeing you post his work, and it was extremely impressive, like some really cool stuff. I Again, I have no artistic bones in my body, so I just don't know how people can even do that. It's just beyond impressive.
Yeah,
Well,
he was a cool cat.
yeah, absolutely. My number 2 is, maybe somebody you've heard the name of before. Are you familiar with the work of Michelangelo?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he makes number 2 on my list. Now, I know we've had some recent listeners popping up from, multiple places in Europe, including Italy. I am about to butcher this pronunciation, but I'm gonna give it a go. His full name is Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni. That sounded
That was
really bad,
impressive.
but tried. Um,
It sounded impressive.
I was faking it till I make it. Michelangelo, I'm gonna go outside of art for a second, was my favorite Ninja Turtle, so I just wanna
Of
be clear
course.
on that. It was the
That was my
best.
son's favorite too, the orange
Did
one, right?
Yeah, did you have a
Yeah.
favorite Ninja Turtle? I gotta ask.
I didn't. I mean, I'd
Okay.
probably go with Michelangelo too because that was
Okay.
Elijah's favorite, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't know.
It's all good.
The
So,
support.
yeah, so Michelangelo, absolute icon from the Renaissance period. He's one of the most well-documented artists of the 16th century. He's famous for sculpting the David. He has two of the most important frescoes in the history of art. He's got the scenes of Genesis that he depicted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome and the Last Judgment on its altar wall. He even took over as an architect later in life at the St. Peter's Basilica. So I know some people say, hey, give me some random facts. So I got some on Michelangelo. Number one, I did not know this until doing some research. He got his start in art by failed art fraud.
Huh.
He took a sculpture, he made it, and he tried to make it appear ancient. And instead of getting in trouble, the government was so impressed by his work that he was invited by Cardinal Riario to Rome to meet Michelangelo and help him train. Michelangelo was also a fluent poet, and he was the richest artist of his time. When he died, he left an estate that is worth $50 million in today's money.
Huh.
He was the first Western artist to have his biography published while he was still alive. But here's the flip side of that. Although Michelangelo was wealthy and he was famous, he was also known for having terrible hygiene. So he rarely bathed, he rarely changed his clothes or boots that he would sleep in. And this is what's really gross. They said that when he would change his boots, his skin would come off with the boots like a snake skin. Yeah, it's
No.
so
Oh my
gross.
gosh. Wow.
And at the time of his death, his clothes had to be peeled off his body because they were
Uh-uh.
stuck to him, which is just so nasty. But
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
one of the guys who had really poor hygiene had some of the greatest art that we've ever seen in Western
Uh-uh.
history. So, my favorite Ninja Turtle, my second favorite artist, Michelangelo. I'll rest on that. And
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to you to get your number one here today.
All right. So I'm gonna guess that you're probably gonna guess what my number one is. When I was still teaching elementary school, I had 2 themes in my classroom. One was Julie Andrews of Mary Poppins, Sound
Uh
of
huh.
Music, all of that, and the other, Bob Ross, because in my opinion, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time artist. I would sit and, well, of course, everybody would just kinda watch him on PBS when he would be
Hmm.
on there, but then so after I got married, I got a few little oil paints, which were very expensive, and I would record him on the old VHS tapes because that's who I am, that's where I was. So I would record him and then I would watch and then I'd pause it and paint and then I'd watch, pause it and paint. And so I kind of learned how to oil paint from
Hmm.
Bob Ross because he is the coolest of all time.
He is. He also had maybe the best hair of all the
Agreed.
artists. Because
Agreed.
didn't he perm his own hair? I feel like.
He did, and I feel like, and I may be incorrect here, I don't know, but I feel like, um, in the documentary, there was a documentary of Bob Ross, and I watched, like, a little bit of that, and I
Mhm.
didn't get through the whole thing, but that the network made him keep his hair like that
I
because it
read
was so
that.
iconic. I
He
wanna
didn't
say that that was it, but
Yeah, he didn't want the hair anymore, but they were like, "You gotta like, this is what you're
yeah,
known for. This is the
this
brand."
is you. Yeah, yeah.
The one of the other things that's cool about him, and, if somebody fact checks me on this and I'm wrong, my bad, but I don't think he ever sold his paintings. Didn't he donate them to PBS for, like, fundraisers?
I want to agree with you. I feel like that is what he did. Yeah, he was just a really cool person. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I knew this was gonna be your number 1. I
You're like,
this one
"What?"
very rarely do I like, am I able to say definitively I know somebody's number 1, but
Yeah,
what I know about you, I was like, Bob Ross, hands down. He's probably 1A and
absolutely,
1B. Um,
absolutely. It'd be super cool to have one of his actual original paintings.
so
Like, that would be
if your
awesome.
husband listens to this sounds like this would be a really good birthday or Christmas present for
I
you.
agree, I
Uh,
agree.
get on it. Well, and I went a little bit of a different route for my number 1, and
Okay.
my number 1 is Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, or, what we all know him by, Leonardo da Vinci. I
Mhm.
say real, recognize real, and I put him my number 1 not just because of his art. I cheated a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
it's because of everything else this dude did. If people are unfamiliar with Leonardo, he was known as an engineer, a painter, a scientist, a theorist, a sculptor, and an architect. His
Huh.
notebooks famously had drawings and notes on almost everything, including anatomy and astronomy. He was known as a genius. His most famous work is the Mona Lisa, which many would say is the world's most famous painting. As
Mhm.
of 2026, the Mona Lisa is estimated to range in worth between 850 million and 1 billion, yeah, that's with a B, dollars.
Wow.
He painted The Last Supper. In 2017, his Salvator Mundi was sold at auction for $450.3 million, dollars,
Mm.
setting the record for the most expensive painting ever sold at a public auction.
Wow.
When he wasn't
Well,
painting, he was like, I'm going to start working on designs. He conceptualized the flying machine. He conceptualized a type of armored fighting vehicle, solar power, had the idea for a ratio machine. He also had inventions such as the automated bobbin winder. He made substantial discoveries in anatomy, civil engineering, hydrodynamics, and geology. He was obsessed with flying. If no one's familiar, he wrote the Codex on the flight of birds. He reportedly was vegan, and he would go to the Florence markets, he would buy caged birds, and then he would set them free. So, he was
hmm.
an animal activist for his time. What's wild is everybody knows he's a genius, he did all these discoveries, but yet he had little formal education. He was self-educated, self-taught, and that is wild when you look at his artistic and
Right,
his
yeah,
academic accomplishments.
that's
And
cool.
the thing that I find the most amusing about Leonardo is that him and Michelangelo were actually bitter rivals during the Renaissance. And to still some rap terminology here, I look at this as the Biggie Tupac beef of the Renaissance period of art. So for his accomplishments that go just beyond art, I had to put Leonardo as my number 1. So,
Right, absolutely. That's cool.
and when I wrap these episodes up, I always ask people, what beef do you have with my list here today?
Mm, um, that I'm not on it.
Well, I have a comment I'm going to make here in a moment, and it's this that everybody listening, has to check Anne out because here in the next few years, she's going to be and she's going to be your all's number 1 artist on a top 5 list of artists because she's
Yes,
killing the
there we
game.
go,
So
there
there
we
you go.
go.
I see. I threw a plug in there for you at the
Yeah,
end.
that
So
that made it better. That was good, that was good.
when you've been married as long as I have, you got to learn how to speak
Right,
and,
right.
and state things. So, and any closing thoughts from you today before we wrap up?
Um, go make some fun art. Go find some whimsy. There's not enough whimsy, as my son Elijah says. go find something fun to do that just makes you happy. Go out in the grass barefoot, go check it all out. Like, just go have a good time and enjoy life.
I love it. Those are some words of wisdom. That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, Anne, I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy art schedule to jump on here and do an episode with me. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you asking me. That was a fun time.
And for all the listeners, I appreciate you all checking this podcast out. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, refer us to somebody else. Let somebody else know that they should give this a listen. As I always say, I want this podcast to cover topics that interest you all. If you have a top 5 list that you want us to rank, I take suggestions at generationalfave5@gmail.com. That's generational, FAVE, the number 5 at gmail.com. In this episode, you've gotten to hear from Anne Henry and about her business, Artsy Fartsy. So here are the details of the contest associated with this episode. For the winner of this contest, you will get to pick a mug from Anne's inventory at Artsy Fartsy. The mug will be of no charge to you and has already been paid for by me. The shipping will also be free as well. All you have to do is pick the mug you like. So, this contest is eligible only to those people who live in the continental United States. For our listeners who reside outside of the continental United States, I apologize as the shipping becomes very unruly for international shipping. To be eligible for the contest, here's the details. You must follow the Facebook pages for both Artsy Fartsy and the Generational Gauntlet Top 5 Faves. I'll put links to each of our Facebook pages in the episode description for this episode. So make sure to follow both pages to be eligible. Once you're following both Facebook pages, leave a comment on the original Generational Gauntlet Facebook post for this episode with the word contest to let us know you're following both pages. These directions will also be clearly noted on Facebook. On Saturday, April 11th, I'll be going live on Facebook to do a drawing of those individuals who are eligible to select our winner. Good luck to everyone who participates.